I think it is okay. We can start. Just a small introduction. This week is a personal ministry week, and the emphasis is on lay evangelism. And we welcome everyone who is on board. Today will be taken by Patrick Oyugi, and Friday Vespers will be handled by Vincent Moindi. On Sabbath, we will have our speaker Evans Lango speaking with us. And with that short introduction, allow me pray so that Patrick may pick the mic and proceed. Allow me pray. Heavenly Lord, glory be unto your name. We thank you for an opportunity to listen to your word. We thank you for the week. And we thank you, dear Lord, for your spirit in us. And we thank you, dear Heavenly Lord, that we can still come to you. As your servant, Patrick Oyugi, presents this day, dear Heavenly Lord, may you lead us to understand that which is being conveyed, O dear Heavenly Lord, to the glory of your name. May you lead us to a deeper experience walking with you. And, oh dear Father, may you purge us of our sins. This is my prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Patrick, you're welcome.
Amen. Thank you. I request Mbeche to enable the screen sharing so that I can present the PowerPoint. Thank you. Welcome, members. As Barak has introduced, this week our church is focusing on lay evangelism. And the topic that we look at tonight is seeking the lost through personal ministry or personal visitation. You find that our church has been very keen on public campaigns, evangelism, and in order to support that, we also need to have personal ministries or personal visitation so that we can be able to retain members who have been saved or been converted into believing in the gospel. So we are looking at mainly seeking the lost, just the way Jesus ministered in his mission. And you find that Jesus was interacting with each and every person. If you look at Matthew chapter 9, verse 9 to 12, in this case, he was calling Matthew to be his disciple. And you find that as much as Matthew was a tax collector, and we had the Pharisees looking at how Jesus is interacting with the tax collectors and opposing that he's interacting with sinners, he replied and said, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but the sinner." So Jesus sacrificed and went a step further. As much as he administered the public preachings, he also had a heart for those who were lost. And he had compassion to reach others and work their salvation. So today we'll mainly focus on our key text, that is Matthew chapter 9, verse 37 to 38. Then we'll look at, in the Bible, the areas where we are called to evangelism. And then we look at motive for evangelical service, mainly the personal ministries, and how the lay evangelism is motivated to reach out. Then we look at some of the typical duties of lay evangelists. I believe there is usually also training with regard to evangelism, and some of the duties which entail this function. And then we look at how to effectively administer this lay evangelism, that we could have a program in our church that will be effective and win souls to Christ. So the key text, that is Matthew 37, 9:37 to 38, you find that it is after Jesus had done a lot of healings and preachings. If you look at the book of Matthew, you see it is still in the beginning of the verses. And it just comes before he sends out the 12 disciples. So it is saying that from 35, Jesus went through all the towns and villages, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and healing any disease and sickness. When he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to the disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. And ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into the harvest field. So we are looking at the harvest being the people who are willing to accept the gospel and change their lives so that they can be able to do what is in line with God's word. And you find that just immediately after this, now Jesus now sent the disciples, and you find that he sent them with the instructions, and he told them not to go to the Gentiles. That is in chapter 10, verse 5. Do not go among the Gentiles or enter any town of the Samaritans. Rather, you look for the sheep of Israel. And again, we are starting with where we belong. We are starting from home as you proclaim the message of the kingdom. Heal the sick and the dead and cleanse those who have leprosy and drive out demons. So if you look at chapter 10, how he sent the disciples, you find that he gave them guidance on what to expect to face as they go for this evangelism. And you find this is like a mode of lay evangelism where we are talking personally to people. So he's saying in verse 16, chapter 10, that I'm sending you out like sheep among wolves. There be as shrewd as snakes and innocent as doves. Be on your guard, you will be handed over to the local councils. Again, these are the challenges that might come about even during the evangelical work. And chapter 2, verse 28, do not be afraid for those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather be afraid of the one who can destroy both body and soul. Again, we are not to fear that once we have been sent to this work, Jesus will, through the Holy Spirit, will be able to execute this work to the glory of God. Verse 32, and whoever acknowledges before me others, I will acknowledge before my Father, but whoever disowns me before others, I will disown before my Father. So the evangelical work is a duty, which we are seeing here that Jesus gave his disciples, and he gave them instructions of what to do. And this shows us that even in this kind of work, the church, through the pastor and also the evangelists in the church, if we are able to offer training to our members who are willing to do this work, I believe we'll be able to reach out to a big population of the prospective members around us. So this lay evangelism, we could define it as mainly spreading the gospel. That's the good news through preaching, and mainly we are trying to emphasize personal ministries. And you find that it involves more than just witnessing. It looks at how we can disciple the people to be ready for Jesus. So even as much as we have members converted, there's still some follow-up that needs to be done to ensure that we retain the faith. Next, we look at calls to evangelism, what in the Bible, how it started, the evangelism work started. You find that in Luke chapter 10, again, the same message for evangelism is there. If you go to Luke chapter 10, verse 1 to 17, again, this is where Jesus sent out the 72 disciples to go out and preach. Again, they went in 2 by 2s to reach out to the area of influence. And you find that he told them that the harvest is plentiful. Again, that is what is our key text. The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into the harvest field. Go, I'm sending you like lambs among wolves. Do not take or pursue or a bag or sandals, and do not greet anyone on the road. Again, this was just that as we are going out to the work, we are focused on our mission, and there are some things which in this evangelism can be able to distract the mission of saving souls. So looking at how to focus on the main work of salvation. Again, the issue here is we are seeing that do not greet anyone. Those are focusing on what is required. We are looking at we will be able to trample on the snakes and scorpions. That is the Lord giving us power to overcome challenges that we might face in this work. And even this 72 returned to the Lord, saying that even the demons submit to us in your name. And he replied, that is on verse 17, I saw Satan fall like a snake, lightning from heaven, and I have given authority to trample on the snakes and scorpions. And Jesus rejoiced that the names of these evangelists are written in heaven. And you find that this evangelist work also helps in growing the strength of the evangelists and growing their spiritual health in terms of spiritual growth. So it strengthens their faith. And through this work, we believe that as much as we are helping others as evangelists, we are also strengthening our faith. So in the Great Commission also, before Jesus ascended to heaven, we find that this is one of the verses that was in our key text in the camp meeting, that the gospel shall be spread to all the world before the second return. That is Matthew 24:14. And also 28:19, you find that still this is the Great Commission, that we have a task to spread this word through evangelism. 28:19 also saying that therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything that I have commanded you, and surely I am with you always. Matthew 16:15 and Luke 24:47 also part of the Great Commission work. So in the modern day, we're looking at how members of the church can spread the gospel to where the church lacks opportunity to reach. When you're looking at areas like the workplaces, where we interact with our families and friends, those are areas where sometimes the church might, or the evangelical team of the church can be able to reach, so that the message is spread to those areas. So the motive for service, you find that we are looking at the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus sacrificed his life, and that was he sacrificed that man can be saved. And it reached a time where his spirit was willing, but again, you find that he sought the disciples to support him in prayer, so that the will of God will be done, that man will be saved. So we are saying if Jesus took this step, even we as believers will be able to convince others and wish also for the salvation of men. So we are looking at that script there saying that we should be, if we are not willing to make special sacrifices to save souls that are ready to perish, how can we be counted worthy to enter the city of God? So this is a major task we have as members of the church, that we wish for the salvation of others, of man, just as Jesus sacrificed and enabled our salvation, that we should share this salvation, that we might grow in faith and also feed others to have the same belief and transform their lives. So those are some of the motivations for service that we still have. We have another one here, which looks at how God could save sinners without our aid. But this participating in evangelical service, especially through personal ministries, helps us develop the character like that of Christ, and we have to share also in his work. And there's a verse there in Proverbs 11 which says that he that watereth shall also be watered himself also. He that refresheth others will also be refreshed. So this evangelical ministry is important to also refresh our spiritual strength and interaction with others. The other motivation we find also in from Matthew 20 verse 7 that we find that there were some idle workers in the market, and they were persuaded to go into the garden and harvest. The same thing with us, that once we have many people who have learned of the good news, and these many people should not be idle, but instead they should spread the good news to others, just the way Jesus gave us in this parable of the vineyard. So we are looking at the whole church being involved, so that everyone should be working according to his ability. And you find that if you are involved, that is where you will be able to see your abilities and how best they can be implemented in the work of God. Without being involved, again, we'll not be knowing our talents and skills which can be used for the work of God. Still on some motivations for this service, again, we find that sometimes this work is left to the church, but it is important that the followers of Christ have an individual work which cannot be done and be left to institutions like the church. So there's need for involvement, and that this truth is not lived. If it is not lived or imparted, again, it will lose its power, and we'll find that if you're not sharing this message, again, our spiritual strength dims and we become lukewarm. So this one is being able to, evangelism through personal means is going to enable us to be on fire for the work of God on a continuous basis. In Luke 14:23, again, we are looking at the wedding parable. So where we are called upon to go out and compel others that the house of the Lord might be filled. Again, so this is, you are seeing it's a duty, our duty to spread the word and make the house of the Lord full. Same also on Isaiah chapter 6 verse 8. You find that here we are saying that as much as angels are really waiting for us to cooperate and be able to communicate the message of the gospel, and we are looking at our stand that should be that we are ready. And Isaiah chapter 6 is saying, and I heard a voice from the Lord saying, who shall I send and who will go for us? Then he said, here I am, send me. So we are saying that everyone should be a partaker of the grace of the Lord, and we should be able to stand in our place, saying that we are ready. And we are saying that this is the work for all Christians, farmers, professional men, mechanics. In our work, in our various areas, we have the responsibility to reveal the gospel and the observation to all the people we interact with. So that's our main duty. So there are some duties of these lay evangelists. Again, there are some institutions which within our conference which have the training on lay evangelism. There's a lot of material online. So there are a number of duties related to evangelism. And this, we are looking at the personal ministries and the personal visitation. So there are areas which you can say that we have public evangelist meetings, which I look at addressing the need in towns, homes, and special groups. We're looking at even hospitals where it goes on to the public areas where we can find people. We have also revelation and Daniel seminars, maybe mainly emphasizing on prophecy. Evangelical work also looks at assisting the pastors in either preaching or filling in the calls for speaking appointments like the Sabbath and during the week. We are looking at Neighborhood outreach, again, this starts with the neighborhood within the church, the radius where the church can be responsible for members within. And there could be some other seminars which are setting the background for the main evangelical work, like seminars on health, cooking and nutrition. So these are some of the works which lay evangelism can involve. And also recruiting those who have the same thrill and burden of saving others, and having a network around with the same motive, and teaching also in this lay evangelism work. So there are some methods where we can see our work, we can make our work effective in terms of evangelism. And this one, we are mainly looking at the personal ministries. And here, we are saying that for personal ministries to be successful, or for evangelism through personal visitation to be successful, we need a wholehearted commitment, and half-hearted commitment to visitation is worse than none at all. This reminds me of where Jesus was calling the disciples. Some were saying, calling people to follow him. Some were saying, let them go and tell their relatives goodbye. So this one requires a wholehearted commitment that we must be able to take a lot of sacrifice so that we can be able to achieve the success of God's work. And we are saying that as much as miracles can exist, there's a lot of hard work required and sacrifice to meet this end. And we are saying these visitations, they supplement the public evangelisms, so that we are not just relying on the public meetings, and we are following the Luke 10 model, where Jesus sent out the 70 disciples. And there are a number of factors to consider for evangelism to be effective. Again, the church must be able to support the program wholeheartedly. We are looking at approvals and funding from the church, so that the church has a buy-in in this idea for it to take off. If we have divisions in the church, again, this program will not succeed. Again, organization should be very thorough in terms of having subcommittees, like what we have, like in our camp meetings, where we have subcommittees with delegated responsibilities, who have people who are committed to ensure the success of these personal ministries and the lay evangelism program. There is also something on spiritual mobilization. Again, we are not relying on our own individual inspirations, but there is need for prayer prior to, during, and even after this personal visitation and evangelism, so that we are backed by the Spirit for the success of this program. There is also something related to systematic prospect search, looking at the people around the church who can be able to benefit, identifying the areas who are in need, the people who are in need. And this could be from Sabbath school members who are not active members of the church. We have visitors. We have also members who have maybe not been baptized in the church. So we are starting from Jerusalem within as we go out. So these are the prospective areas. We maintain a file with all the prospects, and we offer special prayers for the conversion of the prospective members. Again, even before doing the personal ministries visitation or evangelism, again, there's preparation of those people who can be able to be converted. We should be able to demonstrate that we are concerned about them. And we might also be able to invite them to the church, share literature that can be able to strengthen their faith, so that this sets good ground, so that when the evangelist comes, we are able to, the person is able to make the right decision, an intelligent decision at the right time to follow Christ. There is something related to wise selection of the lay visitors, the people involved in this evangelism. Again, we are not to ask for volunteers, but again, the church should select members and request them to be involved in this work. Again, we say it's only that when we have full commitment is when now this from the members is when now their efforts will realize success. The need for training, very emphasized here very much, mainly on the doctrines of the church policies, motives of evangelism, and techniques to be used to convert the members or the prospects. So you find that there are usually lay evangelist training seminars. I said also online that we have a lot of material on lay evangelism, and this is something that is critical for the success of these personal ministries and personal visitation for evangelism. There are specific team assignments. We are looking at how we assign the laymen to visit the prospects. We are looking at and training of both the visitor and the prospect, looking at also the areas for convenience of work. Again, typically you find that in a day, at least 3 visitations can be done. Usually the conversion rate is 25% if it is a good program. Sending out laymen expectantly. We are saying that the laymen are going with a mission to spread the gospel and get converts for the work of the Lord. And we are saying that it is not just getting people acquainted with each other and inviting them to church, but the main turning point is for the conversion or renewal of commitment in serving Christ by the prospects. Having visitors report experientially, yes, once the lay evangelists have gone out for the visitation, when they come back, sharing their experiences will be encouragement and also will be a basis for continuous improvement. Following up decisions for conversions personally, again by both the pastors and the visitors, and continuous communication. Again, this is what we are saying, it is sustaining the commitment to the decision made of serving God. Continuous visitation should be something that goes on throughout the year. So it can have a week or 2 where you have intense activity, but this should be an activity which continues continuously. So that is just a summary of lay evangelism, just to give us the idea of how we can be able to implement this program. And you find that we are looking at it that it will lead to a point whereby we will have many more members following us, and we'll be able to increase also our influence in our vicinity. And we're looking at it that when members are fully involved in personal ministries, we'll reach a point where we'll have a thrill for evangelism in the church, overflowing into the whole congregation, and miraculously will have the church at large will be inspired with a new life and hope. You will find now also that dissension, bickering among members will be dissolved as everyone begins to work and do evangelism work. So we are saying having an effective lay evangelism program may be what we need to bring true revival to our church. So some of this material that are available in the lay evangelism, there's a journal for pastors. That is the Ministry International Journal. What is mainly emphasized here is that members of the church are collaborators with the pastors, and we are looking at contributing to both individual growth by involving members. Their spiritual growth is improved, and we are saying that this evangelism, it looks also to the development, it enhances the development of Christ's character in the evangelists. The ministry also looking at an effective method for this evangelism. You have like the groups of evangelism doing weekly meetings with the pastor, where they are trained and they are sent out for the personal ministries, and also the pastor also goes with them and enhances their work, and they give feedback, just as you have seen on the effective methods of evangelism. So there's usually a need for continuous training and continuous meeting to share. So we have many members in the church with a lot of talents, and we are saying that with this kind of thing, we have members involved. We'll have members who are silent and come to church only to receive, will go forth to proclaim that they know the saving power of God by involving them. There's also an article here looking at, that one was the one for the international, the Ministry Journal for Pastors. There's one here looking at the Adventist News Network. There's one point here which I saw was also very important, that looking at critique on how maybe baptized members are not effective in evangelism, especially the lay evangelism and public evangelism. But we are looking at baptism as a three-phase process, whereby you have preparation, you have proclamation, and preservation. In the preparation, there's a very good book here which has been highlighted, walk through, titled 12 Weeks to Impact Your Church. Again, it takes time to actually get these skills and the training required for evangelism. Proclamation now involves mainly preaching on strong grounded Bible study, and then preservation mainly on the personal ministries to maintain this work. Some of the challenges that have also hampered evangelism has been the issues like the pandemic, and we are saying that the message is the same, and we need to be able to connect the message now with the situations, like the use of ICT, and we'll be able to reach many. In terms of ICT, we are saying as much as we are going digital 100%, it will also become 100% personal, and we are looking at the digital technology being integrated. We are looking at integrating online and offline. So in the Advent source also, we have said that we are seeing the main duties of the lay evangelist. We have looked at 5 of them: assisting the pastor, looking at seminars for revelation, public evangelist meetings. This could also be integrated, for instance, with the camp meetings, neighborhood outreach, recruiting volunteers, and also cottage meetings where we have evangelists for small groups. Lastly, on the Southern Asia journal, we find that this was where we looked at the effectiveness of this evangelist work. And we are saying that the church must be sold on to visitation evangelism. The church must be fully engaged in this program, and not leaving anything to chance by having thorough organizations. We are looking at praying and having an army preparing for battle, that we should support this evangelical work with our prayer warriors supporting this work. And we are looking at also at adequately preparing the prospects for the evangelical message, not just a one-off interaction, but it is a continuous interaction. And we are saying that even Jesus spent a long time in prayer before selecting his disciples. And we are saying that the lay visitors should be properly selected. It's not just asking for volunteers, but we should have people who have this burden of saving souls doing this work. And we are saying that as much as different people have different talents, nobody will fail to get a work to do for the Lord with regard to this evangelism. Training of laymen is also very critical, and assigning the teams for efficiency to do the work. And we are saying that there should be a continuous lay and evangelism program in place, that we could have a fisherman's club, whereby this is a continuous thing, that could be intense during some months or some periods, but it is something that is continuous so that it does not die out. We are saying that if there is no follow-up, people are neglected, most of them will soon be lost. So it goes beyond the one-off meeting and goes towards ensuring that we retain the souls that have been won for Christ. So I believe through that review, we have been able to see that we have a big work ahead of us to interact with our friends, starting at Jerusalem, and the people we interact with, sharing the gospel for their conversion. And this will also be able to strengthen our spiritual growth. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, for the presentation. We thank God so much for the insights. May glory and honor be unto him. I think we can pray, then we return to Elder. Immortal and invisible God, glory be unto you once again. We have seen your power. We have seen your might in our lives. You walked with us, O dear Lord, this week, and now we are in Wednesday. We knew not that it would be possible, and we trust how you've led us in the past, that even in the future, dear Lord, you shall continue to be with us. As we talk about your work, O dear Heavenly Lord, no one can do it better than yourself. Give us the power that we need to do it. Give us the will, give us the zeal, and the challenges that come with it, my Lord. May you help us to overcome, because at the end of the day, it is glory unto your name. May be with us even to this day and the days to come. This is my prayer in faith through Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. I think we meet on Friday, same time, same link, and have a good night.
You too.